Hello, how are you? Today I'm going to explain the relationship between coffee consumption and brain health. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything that is scientifically proven about the benefits of coffee for the brain, what you need to pay attention to when preparing and drinking it, the best time to have it, and what you can or cannot add to your coffee. You're going to love this video, so stay until the end. If you're over 60, this video is a must watch, and if you're not, you definitely have a grandparent you care about, right? So stick around until the end, you won't want to miss it. Before we start, I want to ask you, do you have the habit of drinking coffee every day? How do you prepare your coffee? How do you brew your coffee? How many cups of coffee do you drink per day? At what times do you have your coffee? And what do you add to your coffee when you drink it? I would love to see your comment. If you can, I'd also like to ask you to leave a like on the video. That's really important to me. It shows YouTube that you support my channel and that you trust my content. So let's start talking about this food, which is part of our daily routine. Millions of people drink coffee every day, and coffee is really closely linked to brain health, memory, and waking up, right? When we think about coffee, many people think of caffeine. Of course, coffee is one of the biggest sources of caffeine out there in our daily lives, but coffee isn't just caffeine. It contains many bioactive compounds. There's caffeine, polyphenols, diterpenes, and yes, smaller amounts of vitamins and minerals. And there are compounds that even interact with the gut microbiota. So, coffee is a matrix of bioactive compounds that we can add to our daily routine in a delicious way as well. Many people know that coffee gives you that boost of energy, that extra drive, but people still don't know how this works in our brain, so I'm going to explain this information to you, which is super interesting for you to better understand how it works. Our brain produces a substance called adenosine throughout the day. It's like a natural break that helps the brain relax. And as the day goes on, adenosine builds up, sending that message to our brain. Like, slow down, it's time for you to rest. Caffeine is very similar in shape to adenosine, but with an interesting detail, it fits into the adenosine receptor in our brain without activating that break. In other words, it blocks adenosine. So you feel less sleepy, you have more focus, more attention, and faster reactions. And in some regions, the increased release of dopamine and norepinephrine also boosts our motivation, interest, and ability to concentrate. So many older people sometimes complain, my mind feels slower, I have a lot of trouble keeping my attention, my focus. There's that sluggishness after lunch, and that's when the proper use of coffee can give us that boost we need. Sometimes it's like a switch turning our brain back on. So, in fact, coffee plays a very important role in giving us more energy. But beyond this immediate effect that coffee brings, it can also offer long-term protection. In addition to that immediate effect on focus, concentration, and everything else, coffee also has a cumulative effect on our brain, especially for those who consume a moderate amount over many years. And even regarding a lower risk of developing dementia, including Alzheimer's, right? Which is a type of dementia that people worry about a lot. Parkinson's disease as well, which is another type of neurological problem. So the roles are very different. First, because coffee has an antioxidant effect. It contains chlorogenic acid and other polyphenols that help neutralize free radicals, which damage cell membranes and the brain's synapses as well. So that's a very important first point. In addition, coffee can help reduce chronic inflammation because as we age, the brain's defense cells, the microglia, tend to become overactive, producing constant inflammation. And these compounds in coffee seem to help calm this low-grade inflammation a bit, which makes the brain environment healthier, less toxic for neurons, so to speak. In addition, we know that coffee can help keep glucose metabolism more stable. We know there are indications that coffee slightly improves insulin sensitivity and makes glucose spikes milder, and the brain is extremely dependent on having stabilized glucose levels. So, repeated spikes and drops in glucose over the years can increase the risk of cognitive decline. So, when you combine these three things, less inflammation, less oxidative stress, which is a protective effect of coffee for the brain, that's really interesting. Now let's talk a little about preparation, quantity, and timing of coffee, so you can get more benefits from it, not just in that regard, but for your overall health as well. The first thing that's super important is how you prepare your coffee, because a lot of people make it in different ways. Some people use a French press, where you take a container, add the coffee grounds, pour in boiling water, and press down. It's like a sieve, so it filters. The grounds stay at the bottom and only the brewed coffee stays on top. Some people use a thick cloth to strain the coffee. Some people boil it and serve it straight. These are some of the older and more traditional ways of making coffee, which actually result in higher levels of terpenes. These compounds have an antioxidant effect, but in excess, they can raise cholesterol. So if you have a history of heart attack, stroke, or very high cholesterol, the wisest thing is to use coffee filtered through a paper filter. I think that nowadays, about 90% of people use coffee this way. So, tell me how you make your coffee. But the thing is, the paper filter ends up holding back some of those terpenes while still allowing the polyphenols and caffeine to pass through, which are the main components, biochemical agents really, that help enhance coffee's effects on our brain. So, for most people over 60, the best option is to brew your coffee using a paper filter and without sugar. This is also a very important point. In fact, I'll talk more about what we can add to coffee later when it's time to drink it. But for sure, sugar is not something we should add, because when we add sugar to our coffee as part of our daily routine, in the morning, after lunch, in the afternoon, you end up consuming sugar at many points throughout your day, and there are people who really do consume a lot of sugar. Sugar is a food that contains empty calories. In other words, it has a lot of carbohydrates, causes glucose spikes, and offers no benefits. It has no fiber, no antioxidants, no vitamins, no minerals, so it doesn't provide any benefits. Ideally, don't add sugar to your coffee. The ideal amount of coffee is also something many people want to know, because sometimes less is more, right? Many people think, oh, coffee is good for you, I'll drink it all day long, but that can have side effects. I'll explain. Research indicates that 1 to 3 cups per day, those small cups, a regular little coffee cup, is ideal. More than that can increase the risk of anxiety, insomnia, palpitations, worsening reflux, and gastroesophageal burning. So the benefit lies in moderate intake. That's what I mentioned earlier in the middle of the video. Now, regarding timing, if you're going to have 1 to 3 cups a day, at what time should you prioritize drinking your coffee? This is also a very important question. Usually people have the habit of drinking coffee first thing in the morning to help wake up, right? But ideally you should wait at least an hour after waking up, not immediately as soon as you wake up, because of how our body works. We already have a cortisol spike in the morning. This cortisol increases precisely to wake us up. If you add coffee on top of that, it can throw off your metabolic rhythm and even increase your anxiety. So ideally, you should wake up, brush your teeth, take a shower, right? If you can, do a meditation, because that's good for us too. If you're a religious person, you can pray at this time. Take a few minutes for yourself to take care of yourself at the start of the morning, and then you have your coffee when you have breakfast. Coffee really early in the morning, ideally you should try to avoid that. The second cup can be right after lunch or in the middle of the afternoon, for example, between 1 and 3 p.m. This helps reduce that drowsiness after meals and keeps your mind clear so you can keep working throughout the day into the afternoon. From mid-afternoon on, ideally you should avoid it, especially after 4 p.m. because caffeine can take 6 to 8 hours to be fully metabolized, right? Some people metabolize it faster, others more slowly, so it really depends on your own sensitivity. So, if you drink coffee at 5, 6, or 7 p.m., or after dinner, it might affect your sleep. Some people say, it's no problem, I drink coffee before bed and sleep like a rock, but this can actually harm the quality of your sleep. Sometimes you fall asleep, but you can't reach that deep sleep. You can't get that REM sleep. You can't reach those more restorative brainwave stages that help your brain recover. And during the night, we know that our brain has the glymphatic system that cleans it out. It's very important for your sleep to be of good quality. So if you keep having micro awakenings, if it takes you a long time to fall asleep, if you sleep and then wake up at 3 a.m. and can't get back to sleep, it could be related to coffee, and it's worth testing out the timing of your consumption. Some people also ask me about decaffeinated coffee, whether it can be an option, because there are people with high blood pressure, anxiety, or who already have insomnia and are advised not to consume regular coffee. So yes, decaf coffee can be an option in these cases, because coffee isn't just about caffeine, right? As I mentioned, coffee contains several other bioactive compounds like polyphenols and antioxidants. So yes, it can definitely be an option. If you have a contraindication because of caffeine, drinking decaffeinated coffee could be better than nothing. In this case, if you have already had a specific contraindication, it's always worth talking to your nutritionist or your doctor who follows you in your city, especially the person who advised you against coffee, to see if in your case, decaf could or could not be an option. Another interesting detail is, I've told you what not to add to your coffee, like white refined sugar, but what can you add to your coffee? Many people can only drink coffee if it tastes sweet. So, there are spice options you can add to your coffee without necessarily having to use sugar or sweetener. So, remember that ground cinnamon can be wonderful, especially because it helps improve carbohydrate metabolism and insulin resistance. Cloves, if you grind them with a mortar and pestle, or if you process them and use the resulting powder. That can also be a good option because of the eugenol, carvacrol, and the powerful antioxidants and anti-inflammatories present in it. You can also add turmeric if you want, or ginger if you like a spicier coffee. Both turmeric and ginger are powerful anti-inflammatories that you can add to your daily routine. And also remember that you can add non-caloric sweeteners such as stevia or erythritol, which are natural sweeteners, if you're really looking for a more sweet flavor. Tell me, do you add anything like that to your coffee? Do you make any kind of mix? I have a really cool video here talking about what you can use to sweeten your coffee with other great tips without using sugar. I'll leave that video down below in the description. Take this opportunity and tell me, how do you prepare your coffee? How do you brew it? What do you add or not add? How many times do you drink it? In what time of day? Leave a comment. Remember to like the video, it helps the channel, and share this video with anyone who might enjoy this. Let's do this together, expanding this chain of good. That's what I want here on the channel. See you next time. Bye.